the Terry Sullivan Show. Terry Sullivan.
You were so close.
Hey, can we start this over? Let's do it over. You want to edit? Okay. Okay.
Rookies.
I can't believe I just said it's my name too.
Rookies.
I was going to say Telly Savalas. Telly Savalas. Can I call you whoever I want? Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm used to it for sure.
I've called you a lot of things.
I'm gonna need that money back that I paid you today.
It's the Terry Sullivan Show. Today's guest, Judge Waddill. Now here's your host, Terry Sullivan.
Thank you, Terry. He's such a great guitarist.
He is good. He is good. I wish I had that skill, and I do not.
Well, not many do. This guy's played all over the world, and I'm so glad he's here. I'm honored that he's here being a part of our show. Judge Waddill, it's so good to have you today.
It's my pleasure being here, Terry.
It's an honor to have you. You've become a friend of mine, and I appreciate it, and I hope I never have to see you in your trade.
You can always be on a jury.
Well, you know, we've had Judge Ramirez in here. I love Judge Ramirez, and you're good friends with him. We've had Judge Curbo. We've had Judge Oliver.
Yes.
But I thought I'd save the best to last. You are.
I owe you money for that.
I guarantee that. Judge, you have an interesting job because you preside over many different types.
I do.
Explain your job.
Well, in Texas, just a county court at law or county criminal court like I preside over, we preside over Class A and B misdemeanor cases. So there's 5 county criminal courts in Denton County, and we all have the same jurisdiction. But by local rules and other statutes that are in place, we're able to kind of separate some of the cases out. So Judge Peel in County Criminal Court 2 hears all of the family violence cases unless she's recused or something pops up, and then she'll send those to Judge Evans in Fort Worth, and he'll farm it out to one of the other 4 of us. Mm-hmm. So that's how we do those. I also preside over our DWI treatment court, a mental health treatment court, and all of the district judges in Denton County send me their felony intoxication offenses. Mm-hmm. So unique statute to Denton County criminal courts is we have original jurisdiction over Chapter 49 cases, which are intoxication offenses.
Now, as a criminal judge, you could preside over misdemeanors all the way to capital murder.
The felony cases other than the intoxication offenses all go to district courts. And the only way that I could get jurisdiction over something like that is by special assignment from Judge Evans. And he does that very rarely, but there are occasions that he'll appoint or assign me or someone else to preside over a felony case.
Judge, did you ever have mental health cases?
I do. If you preside over criminal cases, you're going to have people that have mental health issues. You just are.
Well, that's a huge topic.
It is
today, and it should be, right?
That's right.
So how do the courts work? How do you determine, or how is a person that's standing trial how are they determined that they have a mental health situation?
Usually that's going to come from either the police that have dealt with them in the past, or their defense attorney can raise those issues with the state. If you get arrested and taken to the jail, that's one of the bookend questions, is they're going to ask you, do you receive mental health treatment? Okay, and if you do, then there are procedures to check and see, okay, are you in crisis right now or not? Mm-hmm. They can bring in a mobile crisis outreach team from Denton County MHMR to come do a screening on you in the jail, on the roadside, at the house, wherever. Mm-hmm. And that's something that is given, there's notice given to all the parties on that, and the jail has to make sure that the person is screened and is receiving the care that they need.
Are you satisfied with the process when it concerns a mental health patient?
I'm not satisfied with some of the resources that are available or not available. If someone is, especially on felony offenses, if someone is declared incompetent because they've had a screening through a psychiatrist or psychologist that's been appointed by the court, and that professional has come in and said, no, this person is not competent to stand trial, but they're likely to regain competency. Well, if it's a violent offense, they're going to have to wait until they can get a bed at the state hospital. That could take over a year.
Well, now wait a minute. So if they're determined to be incompetent, but they could become competent.
Yes.
Where's the line there? What determines that?
That the professional has the understanding of, look, this person is off their meds. They haven't been taking their meds. If we get them medicated with the diagnosis that they have and the things that I observe, I think this person could regain competence. There could be things where, look, no, they're not. I mean, you may have somebody that's IDD or was referred to as mental retardation. Now it's intellectual, developmentally disabled. Mm-hmm. So if they're IDD, that's not something that you can bring back. Mm-hmm. But if it's a mental health issue because of mental illness, there could be medications that could bring you back to being competent to understand what's going on and being able to assist your attorney.
So in between all that, they've got to wait for a bed at the state, which could take a year?
It could.
So where do they stay during that time?
At the Denton County Jail.
I see. Judge, have you ever had a case where you looked at it and you go, this person here is a little off their rocker?
Absolutely. And that's the Code of Criminal Procedure says that if it comes to the court's attention through whatever means, then the court can, on its own, just sua sponte, on their own motion, say, look, I want this person to be examined.
By the way, that's a new term. I just coined that term, off the rocker. You're going to start hearing that in court a lot more.
It's in the DSM-4. They've moved out of that.
It's in the
when they got to 5.
DSM-ASC ORT4. The lawyers are going to come in and go, off his rocker. And you'll know.
And we know what that means.
You'll know that came from Terry Sullivan.
I will.
All right, so Judge, let's go back. What did you do before law school?
Before law school, the job that I had the most was probably waiting tables.
I could use you.
I could do it. It's one of those things you don't forget how to do it.
As a matter of fact, I would make you ruler over the tables in my restaurant. We're going to call you Judge Waddill, the ruler over tables.
You know, the last place I worked, I quit my job to go to law school. I had my degree. I was waiting tables at Pappadeux, down off of Loop 12. You know, back when Texas Stadium was still open. So you'd see some of the Cowboys come in.
Mm-hmm. The good ones.
The good ones, yeah. Emmitt Smith, got to see him. Mike Madonna, I remember seeing him. I'll tell you a good story from the week that they had hired Primetime. There was a week before he got to play. So was Michael Irvin, Primetime, and Kevin Smith all came in, and they were talking about how much money Oprah Winfrey made for not doing anything. And we're like, guys, you know, y'all are making good money for playing a game. Like, well, yeah, that's right. And then as the guy that was waiting on him walked off, they're like, man, yeah, but she didn't have to work out. So, you get a lot of neat stories.
Well, it depends
waiting tables.
it depending on her weight. I mean, sometimes she worked out. It's a hard life sometimes.
It is.
Not so much now.
I can't remember doing that as much as I need to, but yes.
So, Judge, what sent you to law school? I mean, what?
I got tired of waiting tables with my degree. I took
What your degree was in what?
criminal justice.
Criminal justice. Okay.
So
But what about law enforcement? You didn't.
I tried. That was a very competitive thing. Police departments are looking for people right now.
I told Judge Oliver. We had Judge Oliver on another episode, and he wanted to be a cop back in the day. Couldn't get a job.
Right.
Couldn't get a
difficult.
job. But I told him nowadays he could get one.
My bailiff he and I got to be friends when I was working at a camp in food service. His wife at the time had come over and was working at the camp, and he said, hey, my husband's a cop over in Ardmore. So I went and rode out with him twice. We both tested for Denton PD at the same time. He got hired. He retired after 24 and a half years to come be my bailiff.
Isn't that something?
And I was best man at his wedding. Good long friends.
Judge, you ever go back to Pappadeux and go, I'm a judge now?
Nobody looks familiar there. Nobody would know. I will go there and eat. It's good food.
It's good food. So you went to law school.
Yep.
Where'd you go?
St. Mary's in San Antonio.
All right. So you went to law school, and after law school, what?
I went to work for a firm in Abilene, Wagstaff law firm. They did mostly energy law. My stepmother was a partner there, so they gave me a chance. Mm-hmm. And I promptly realized I don't want to do energy law.
Right.
And I worked out a deal with them that they wouldn't fire me if I could try to turn it around, and I started looking for a job. Mm-hmm. And then I came back to Denton, where I grew up.
And you've been a judge for how many years?
I'm ending my 8th year, so I started in 2015 is when I took the bench.
Judge, you're a very popular judge. People love you. I mean, I hear nothing but accolades about Judge Waddill. What's the thing? What do you like most about being a judge?
I think that I can help people in this job. My job is not to be an advocate, all right? But I think I give good, fair rulings on cases. I think I treat the attorneys and the defendants with respect. Mm-hmm. As long as it's given to the court, I'll give you respect back. Mm-hmm. Look, everybody's messed up.
Sure.
Some people just end up in court over it.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, and so if you treat people respectfully, normally they're going to treat you respectfully as well. Not all the time.
Right.
But most of the time.
That reminds me of a former Dallas Cowboy, and I won't say his name, but he told me one time, he said, if they would have had social media back when we played, we'd all be in jail. Yeah. So, what is the least thing you like about being a judge? If you could mark one thing out that you don't have to deal with on a daily basis.
Dealing with the political side of things, it takes away from my family. Mm-hmm. That's one of the hardest parts about it is, I like my job. I think I do a good job at it. I've got 2 young children. My son will be 4 in a couple of weeks. My daughter will be 9 at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And I try to spend as much time with them as I can. Mm-hmm. But that's hard when you have other obligations that you need to do to make sure that you can keep your job. And look, politics can be ugly, but there's some good people out there, and I like a lot of the people that I get to meet because of that.
Many judges, 9 to 5, they're done. Does it go beyond that to you? I mean,
Yes.
Do you have to stay late? Are you on call? Do you get people showing up at your house going, Judge?
I haven't answered the phone outside of work hours since Sunday morning, which was yesterday. I was out walking my dog I think we hit the road walking about 6, and by about 6:15 my phone rang, and they've got a good system now. I signed a warrant using my cell phone.
My goodness.
So yeah, it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. The mental health treatment court that I preside over, we meet every other Thursday, and we start our meetings at 7:45. And trials many times will run late. If they do, my wife knows where I am, and we'll stay late. And it could be, I think the latest I've stayed for a trial has probably been about 9 o'clock. So if the jury wants to stay, we're on their dime, and I'm going to be respectful of their time. If they don't want to come back the next day to finish a case, if they want to stay and work, then we'll stay and work.
Judge, in your opinion, going back to mental health, because it's such a topic, a national topic, global topic, in your opinion, what should the state, or even on a federal level, what should happen, or if anything could happen concerning mental health patients with weapons?
Look, that's a huge topic right now. If you have been adjudicated where you cannot own firearms, those are, you can't purchase them, that's in the background check right now. Okay? So just because you've got a mental health issue doesn't mean it's going to rise to the level of not being able to own or possess a firearm.
Right.
And so that's a huge balance. Where do you want to start taking away someone's constitutional right to keep and bear arms? I'm a big 2A guy. That's my thing. It's hard to figure out what is going to be the right thing to do. You know, there's red flag laws that are going on in a lot of states. Well, what happens if somebody's lying about that? Okay, then just because they're the state, if they're getting just a one side of the story, what's going to happen to the person that lied? Okay? Do they get punished for lying, or don't they?
Judge, your opinion on license to carry, and beyond that, where you don't have to have a license.
Right, you don't anymore. That's correct.
So in the state of Texas, is that good? Is it bad? When that started going on, did you go, well, why don't we just go to having gunfights in the street?
One of the biggest, what's the old phrase? When seconds matter, the police are minutes away. People need to be able to protect themselves. Most officers don't respond to an in-progress thing. They respond to the scene of the crime. People have the absolute right to defend themselves.
Right, I agree.
And I think that everybody, one of the things that I wish people would do more of is train, be proficient with a firearm. But you hear people talk about, well, look, you need to be able to run this and then shoot this. Well, what about the older person that can't run?
Right.
But they're also not going to be able to defend themselves without a good equalizer.
Right.
They have the right to defend themselves too. Just because you get old or become disabled in some way doesn't mean that you don't have the right to defend yourself.
A lot of conversation about that, and a lot of conversation where people don't see the big picture. They see a corner of the picture, and they decide an opinion, and they throw it out there, but they have really no idea the reverberations around that. Like we're just talking about, what about the elderly? What about the crippled? What about those that, what are you going to do? So concerning our schools, Judge, how do we, in your opinion, what changes need to be made to keep our kids safer?
I know this may spark controversy or something, but if teachers or other people that are in the school are willing to carry a firearm in the school and go through some training to do that, that's a big deterrent. One of the other biggest things that you can do, and we see that down in Uvalde, you got to make sure the door's locked. You just do. One of the things that frightens me most with my children is when something happens and you have a shelter in place. That means you're just waiting for the person to come and shoot the door open and then come in and do something. And that's not what it needs to be. You need to learn you need to have training. You need to have people that are willing to, okay, this is happening. Where is it happening? How can we get out of it? My daughter's school has windows in the classroom.
Right.
If somebody's shooting inside the school, they need to be going out those windows and getting away. There's all different kinds of things that can happen.
What should have happened in Uvalde?
Oh, man.
I mean, that was just a cluster
It was. That was a tragedy beyond measure.
beyond measure.
I mean, that hurts me still
Yeah.
to think about what those children went through.
So when you see that, when you hear about that happening, and you know, these days, I mean, the world in so many different ways is so upside down and crazy that, and going back to what you just said, there are things that we need to put into place that are just instinctual.
Yes.
You gotta keep the doors locked. There are nutty people out there. I tell my son all the time, close the garage door when you leave at 10 o'clock at night. Be sure and close the garage door. A lot of people don't think about that. Well, it could happen, but it will never happen. But you don't know if it will or if it won't.
Right.
There are measures that, just common sense measures to
Yes.
keep us safe.
That's
But when-
correct.
But when you see a situation like that, and it's happened all over the country and on different levels, as a judge, as a criminal judge, and that's another thing. You see things differently. You see those situations differently because you see some of these situations in your courtroom.
Yes, sir.
It makes a difference on your opinion on guns, on mental health, on what should be done or what should not be done. Right?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. You know, in Uvalde, it was a failure on the officers that didn't move forward and breach the door and go in and put him down.
Why would they not? For the life of me, when you're thinking about the danger to kids, regardless of who backup you had, if you didn't have, why wouldn't you go in? I don't understand that process.
The officers that I deal with on a daily basis around the courthouse, they're wearing bulletproof vests. They're trained with their rifles. And you know that you may not come home that day.
You sign up for that.
You have. And so you need to train well so that if something like that happens, you know how to go in and go to work. And that's the way they phrase it. You know, look, it's not that I get to go do this, it's time to go to work.
Right.
And so that's what we have to do.
So many failures in that situation and so unfortunate.
It is.
So many lives changed forever. Is your father still alive?
He is.
And your mother?
My mother is gone.
Yeah. Were you close to your dad?
Still am, yes.
What did he do for a living?
He was the superintendent at the Abilene State School when he retired.
All right.
So he was a school teacher before I was born, and then he was the director of education at the Abilene State School. Then we moved to Denton for him to be the assistant superintendent at the Denton State School. And then after my parents divorced, he moved back to Abilene as the superintendent there, and that's where he retired.
What did he teach you that you use most in life to this day?
Be nice to people, but that doesn't mean that you're a pushover.
Be fair.
Absolutely. You have to. If you're not fair with people, they're not going to respect what you're doing.
Judge, during COVID, I've asked all the judges, during COVID in 2020, when nobody really knew what to do, and y'all were getting instruction from the state and they were getting instructions from the federal government, how hard was it to be a judge during that time?
That's probably one of the things that I'm proudest of, is the way we pulled together. Brody Shanklin was the local administrative judge for the district courts, and I was the local administrative judge for the county courts at the time. And we had to sit down and look at the code, look at the emergency orders that had come down from the Supreme Court saying what we can and can't do, or what we can waive, or what we can put aside, and build procedures so that people's cases could move forward. The only thing we couldn't do was jury trials.
Right.
We did everything else. We had to figure out how we could get people to come in and either plead their case over Zoom. Then we still have to get a thumbprint off people. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to get people over from the jail? Or do we have to get people over from the jail to do that? Can we do it by video? And we ended up working out procedures for everything so that the only thing we couldn't do, because you have the absolute right to confront your accuser. And so while you may say, look, you could have done a trial without, no. If you're accused of criminal offense, you want to look at the person in the eye that's being a witness against you.
Right.
That's one of the bedrocks of our constitutional criminal system. And so you're not going to waive constitutional rights on things.
What's the one thing that you wish every attorney would know about court, about a case?
Know the facts of their case.
Judge Ramirez said the same thing. Know the facts.
You have to know the facts of the case. You know, when it comes to me, I don't know the facts of the case. Most of the time, unless there's been some kind of evidentiary hearing, I don't know what it is. The parties have to know the facts of their case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And be honest about the facts of your case. That's, you know, sometimes people start talking about things and then you realize that, no, they don't know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's embarrassing for people when that happens.
Sure. And it's not right for the clients.
No, it isn't.
Judge, you have 2 children.
I do.
What's the one thing that you want them to carry in life even after you're gone? You hope that they always remember this one thing.
Be nice to treat people and treat them fairly.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of the golden rule. You know, when you look at it from a religious side, that's something that you got to be able to do, and be nice to your brother, be nice to your sister.
You know, Judge, that is so true. You know, you're talking about the religious side of it. The Bible says whatever you sow, that's what you're going to reap.
Right.
But the world shares the same thing. The world calls it karma, or what goes around comes around.
Right.
Good and bad.
That's correct.
Judge, I sure appreciate you, love you. Our state loves you, our county loves you. You are a great asset to all of us, and we appreciate you so much. We're going to turn it off right now, but we're going to turn it over to Terry. Take us out, buddy.